This is Chapter 1, Section 2, Problem 42. It asks us to consider a home mortgage loan of $75,000 with a fixed APR of 7.5% for 20 years. They ask us to do three things. Calculate the monthly payment. B, determine the total amount paid over the life of the loan. Of the amount paid, what percentage is paid towards the principal and what percentage is paid towards the interest. So to begin with here, I start out with the formula. This is our mortgage loan payment formula. I wrote it out here. It's just like it is there. It looks a little interesting, but just like anything else, you study the parts of it, and then it's not as interesting as before. So the P represents the principal, which is simply the amount of the loan or mortgage. The APR is the annual percentage rate. That is the total amount of interest that the person will be charged per year. Okay, that's the amount they'll be charged per year, the total interest they'll be charged for, the APR, the annual percentage rate, since we're dealing with the life of the loan here. N is the number of compounding periods. Now, if we take the number of periods the interest is applied throughout the year, so what they've done is the interest is applied at different periods to add up to one part of a year, so that if N is 1, the interest is applied once in the year. The interest rate is applied one time in a year. If N is 2, then it's semi-annually. That means the interest is going to be applied twice. And the amount of interest that is applied is just half of it. Every 6 months, semi-annually, the interest is applied. I think I spelled that wrong. I guess that's right there. Quarterly, when N is 4. So the amount of interest that is applied every 3 months is the APR divided by 4. And if you add them up, they add up to the total APR for the year. When N is 12, that's monthly. So the amount of interest that is applied every month is going to be the APR divided by 12. So that's the amount of interest, that's the interest rate applied every month. How much they'll be charged every month on the loan. When N is 365, you take the APR and divide it by 365, and that gives you the interest rate applied every day, the amount that will be charged. The Y in the formula here is the number of years for the life of the loan, how long they have to pay it off, and the payment is the amount of the payment for the mortgage or loan. So we looked at the parts of the formula. Now let's look back at the problem that they asked us to work with. So I went ahead and wrote out the formula again. So we can see here, they give us information. The amount of the loan is the P, the principal, which is $75,000. They tell us the APR is 7.5%. When you're working with the APR, you want to put it into a formula. You want to put it in as a decimal. And they tell us that the Y is number of years is 20 years. And we see that in A they ask for the monthly payment. So N would be 12. And the payment is unknown. So now we've labeled all the parts to the formula. Now we can plug in. So notice what I did. I wrote out the formula. I assigned values to my variables, and then I plugged in. Then I simplified my numerator, completing my denominator. Okay. So I have this value here, 1 plus raised to the negative 240. So I simplify this denominator here. Now, this is something that's you need to remember, since we're dealing with money and we are squaring values here, and we want to be as accurate to the penny, we need to go out as many as 8 different digits, because we'll be rounding to the nearest penny. So we want to know something about the thousands place. So we round to the right number. So we're rounding to the nearest penny. So we go out 8 places. And I simplify the denominator. And then I simply divide here. And this gives me the payment amount, the monthly payment amount. And this is part A. And if we look at it here in the screen, so they go ahead and simplify the numerator, they simplify the denominator, and they get the same value there for the payment. And now they ask, I'll find the total amount repaid. The total repaid. So in order to do that, strategy here is to find, we know the number of payments. How many times did they have to make those payments? So we know that there are monthly payments. So N is 12 and the number of years is 20. So there were 240 payments. There were 240 payments. So the total repaid is going to be the number of payments times the amount of the payment, which is going to be 240 times $604.19. So that gives me the total amount they had to pay back, which is $145,005.60. Now, in this amount that's repaid, part of it is the loan and part of it is interest. Part C asks what percent is loan and what percent is interest. So here in part C, we have a fraction here, the amount of the loan divided by the total repaid, which gives me the fraction of what percentages of the total repaid is loan. Okay, so you have to find the amount of interest. The amount of interest is going to be the total amount repaid minus the amount of the loan. So the difference of that is $70,000. That is the amount of the interest. So when we divide that out and multiply it by 100, we get 48.3%. So what that tells us is that the interest is 48.3% of the total repaid. It's almost like you're buying 2 houses. There.